Earth's timeline and emergence of life. Earth's geological timescale. Earth has been around for billions of years, and the way that scientists make an estimate is through the geologic timescale. This refers to a system of dating the history of Earth in a chronological manner using geological data. The entire geologic timescale of the Earth reflects the entire history of the geologic history of our planet. The geologic timescale is divided into ions, eras, periods, and epochs. Ions refer to the greatest expanse of time that can be divided into the Phanerozoic and Precambrian eras. Ions are divided into eras, then eras are subdivided into periods that can be further subdivided into the epoch. Epochs are the shortest subdivision unit in the Earth's geologic timescale that is characterized by the changes in life forms and may vary from continent to continent. Phanerozoic ion, 542 million years ago, means visible life that was constructed through rock units that bear abundant fossils. Precambrian ion, 4 billion years ago, represent the period between the birth of the planet and the appearance of life forms. Cenozoic era is also known as the age of mammals. In this period, scientists observed a series of speciation of mammals. Most importantly, this is the time when the first humans appeared. It is subdivided into two periods including the Tertiary, also sometimes referred to in terms of Paleogene and Neogene period, and Quaternary. Mesozoic era is also known as the age of reptiles. Within this time frame, reptiles, especially dinosaurs, were abundant. It is divided into three periods: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Paleozoic era is also known as the age of invertebrates, due to the presence of the fossils of animals without backbones, including trilobites and corals. It is divided into six periods. This time period is represented by Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, and Permian periods. Theory of spontaneous generation. Theory of spontaneous generation stated that the idea that life comes from lifeless or non-living materials through a mysterious process. Abiogenesis is the process by which life emerges naturally from inanimate or non-living materials. The theory of spontaneous generation is made by Anaximander, a Greek philosopher in the 16th century BCE. Including Aristotle adapted and expanded Anaximander's idea, where he explained that some organisms appeared from inanimate objects spontaneously. In 1859, a French scientist, Louis Pasteur, made an experiment that disproved the spontaneous generation theory. Pasteur boiled meat broth in a goose-like flask, having a long curved neck. He explained that the bend in the neck prevents particles from reaching the meat broth and still allows free air to flow. By his observation, the flask remained clear and there was no cloud formation observed for an extended period. This experiment of Pasteur convinced a lot of scientists during his time, and led to the exclusion of spontaneous generation theory as a valid idea to explain the origin of life. Theory of panspermia. The theory of panspermia, exogenesis, suggests that building blocks of life came from another planet. This includes comets colliding with Earth and depositing living cells or the precursors of life, and aliens making life essential materials in a laboratory. Fred Hoyle introduced this idea in the 19th century, where he mentioned that life on Earth was seeded from celestial sources. According to the idea of this theory, bacteria and other microorganisms might have traveled in dormant stages within comets and asteroids that heated the Earth. These dormant organisms were activated and started colonizing the Earth, which served as their new environment. Primordial soup theory. One of the most convincing theories regarding the origin of life is the primordial soup theory. This theory suggests that life started in a primordial soup of organic molecules. It tries to explain how catalysts for non-living things became living cells from chemical compounds abundant on early Earth. One of its assumptions includes the idea that life first formed from primitive seas when simple molecules of the Earth's atmosphere reacted to produce complex molecules. The principle of this theory remains strong and logical, that considered the theory valid until now. The schematic presentation of the early Earth and how biological molecules were synthesized from gases and minerals. By the way, this is a schematic presentation. In relation to the primordial soup theory, several scientists have conducted different experiments that modeled conditions which may have enabled the first life forms to evolve. These include the following well-known experiments. Electrical discharge experiment. Stanley Miller and Harold Urey conducted an experiment simulating the Earth's primitive atmosphere. They created a closed environment with methane, ammonia, water, and hydrogen, and applied electrical sparks to mimic lightning. The mixture was also heated to simulate solar energy. After 1 day, the solution changed color, and after 1 week, tests revealed the formation of essential amino acids, including glycine, alanine, and aspartic acid. This experiment demonstrated how lightning and energy from the sun could have triggered the creation of life's building blocks on early Earth. This is a schematic diagram of the entire Miller-Urey experiment. Thermal synthesis experiment. This experiment demonstrated the origin of life in an experiment using a specific mixture of pure, dry amino acids. It was conducted by Sidney Walter Fox in 1958. By heating the mixture, he observed that an aqueous solution was formed and cooling into the microscopic globules called proteinoid microsphere. From this, Fox claimed that the proteinoid microspheres constituted photocells, spherical materials that looked like cells, and even multiplied through division like through cells. He believed that these cells were the link between the primordial environment and the true living cells. This is the proteinoid microspheres under a microscope. The protocell experiment was conducted by Jacques Szostak. In this experiment, Szostak hypothesized that the simplest possible living cells or protocells just requires two components to be formed: a nucleic acid genome to transmit the genetic information and a lipid sac which encapsulated the genome and let it itself grow and divide. With this in mind, Szostak built lipid sacs made in fatty acids and replicates an RNA molecule that catalyzes its own replication in a test tube. He found out that lipid sacs which more RNA grew faster. He suggested that such a test tube evolution was possible. The results suggested that the early forms of life with just a single gene, RNA gene, could have undergone Darwinian evolution. This is the model showing replication and growth of a protocell. Early evidence of life on Earth. First life forms are believed to have emerged 3.7 billion years ago. One of the earliest known evidence of life on Earth includes the stromatolite fossils, collected from various samples of metasedimentary rocks in western Greenland and were aged 3.7 billion years old. Stromatolites are layered columns of sedimentary rocks formed through the growth of cyanobacteria, a single-celled photosynthesizing microbe. These fossils provide records of ancient life on Earth. This is the stromatolite fossils on a rock near the shore. In 2015, fossil of the microbial mat, primitive microbial colony, had may represent potential biotic life dated 4.1 billion year old were collected in Western Australia. In 2017, researchers have reported evidence of the oldest life on Earth in the forms of fossilized microorganisms collected from hydrothermal vent precipitates in Quebec, Canada. This was dated to be 4,280 billion years ago, which occurred 200 million years after the first ocean was formed. This is the microbial colony forming mats, or biofilms. The evolution of photosynthetic organisms was dated at around 3.5 billion years ago and led the build-up of its byproduct, oxygen gas, in Earth's atmosphere. The increase in the concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere of Earth at around 2.4 billion years ago is responsible for providing optimum living conditions to organisms. One of the organisms that emerges is the multicellular eukaryotes that dated 1.85 billion years ago. The emergence of multicellular organisms with highly differentiated cells performing specialized functions was observed to be around 1.7 billion years ago. Animals with proportional body symmetry appeared by 555 million years ago, while the earliest complex land plants dated back to around 850 million years ago. This is the schematic diagram of the emergence of fossils of distinct organisms group over time. The most advanced form of animals, such as vertebrates or animals with backbones, first appeared at 525 million years ago during the Cambrian explosion. It is an event that happened 541 million years ago in the Cambrian period and was responsible for the emergence of most major animal phyla. This event resulted in the divergence of most modern animal and plant organisms. Prior to this event, most living things are simple and only consist of individual cells that clump together and form colonies. For over 70 to 80 million years ago, after the Cambrian explosion, the rate of diversification of organisms accelerated that formed a variety of life forms that is present today. Thank you, and that's it.